page on it.
Awesome. Okay, it shows that we are live, baby. Lupus live, baby. It's so nice to see you and meet you.
I know. It was like I've met so many people via the internet this year and through other people. So
Yeah.
it's been a lovely experience to say the least.
Yeah, it's definitely different from, just a regular life, in person item. So, but
Exactly.
if you go on my page, it should be live, and if you go on the Lupus and Color page, it should be live as well.
Okay.
And then once you're able to do that, then we will start off, and we'll
Okay.
see if
One.
anybody else is out here. It should just be
There we
us
go.
two for now. Let's comment
Yes,
out in
we're
the chat.
on. We're on. We're on.
Awesome. We are live, baby. Lupus live. And we will start in a few minutes. We're just giving some people some opportunity to see us and see the links that we are putting out. Let's see.
Absolutely. Trying to. Okay.
And I'm in town now, so my internet should be great.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. Yeah, because
So
sometime on the road it cuts out.
yeah, we hopefully that will not happen today. But we are live with
Lanice.
Lanece, Reed Lanece, Verkeya Lanece, and I practiced that all week. I'm gonna tell you, I really did. I practiced it all week, and I said to myself, "You're gonna get this right." And then, of course, I think my mind is racing because I'm
You're in
on
the
the
car.
road.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
and I'm not driving, so it's all good. It's all good. We're gonna make it do
Listen,
what it do.
I had my book release party online last year, and we literally had to start it in the car
Yep.
because I was on my way to my parents' house on the
Right.
Metro North in New York, and we got
Yeah.
stuck on the train. My cousin and I, we had to get off the train. My dad came to pick us up. And thankfully, I
Wow.
had my phone. My phone was able to, use the hotspot and got on the laptop and started the party.
Right.
You gotta do
Right.
what you gotta
And you
do.
got to do what you got to do when you do it and how you do it. You should know that just being a lupus warrior, you're gonna have to make it do what it
Talk
do
about it. Talk
when
about
you
it.
do it. You know
Talk
what I'm
about
saying?
it.
So
Yeah.
I'm so excited that you decided to come on with us and talk to us about your story. And
Mm,
I'm just so excited to meet you. I was looking through your website, and I have a friend who's a friend of yours that said,
yes.
"Oh, you need to have her on."
When she said
So
it, she was like, I have a friend who's doing this and I recommended you. So be looking out for her email. And I was like, oh,
I know. And I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, I'm sorry. I don't want to bother you, but I
no,
love
it's
it.
not a bother. Like, this is what I know I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I have been
Absolutely.
given, you know, I have been given so many things to do, and I
Right.
know that this is part of one of the bigger things that I'm supposed to be doing. So I am grateful and always thankful when someone is like, hey, we want to talk to you about what you've experienced, because you never know if it's going to help somebody else. And that's
Absolutely.
always my thing. Like, you go through tragedy, but when you triumph and have victory, you got to share your story because it'll help someone else. And
Look
so
at you.
that's always my goal, is to help
Yeah.
other people, who are going through similar things, or just,
Absolutely.
who are looking for information. Like, people learn stuff when you start talking. Like, you never know who's listening. So
You never know
yeah,
who you're inspiring, right? You never
that too.
know
That too. One of
how
my
people
friends,
are.
right, like, you never know who's being inspired, who's looking at you.
Right.
A friend of mine inboxed me one day and he was like, I'm so proud of you. I don't always comment, and believe me, I'm seeing what you're doing. And I was like, it kind of took me aback. And I was just like, wow, so you never know who is seeing what you're doing. So
Right. Right.
here we
It's
are.
important. It's
It is.
important. Well, I'm
Absolutely.
ex- I'm excited. Tell us a little bit about you, Verkeya. It's tell me about Verkeya Speaks. Tell me about what you are about first.
Okay, that's loaded. So my name is Verkeya. I am a native New Yorker. I grew up in,
Yay!
yes, I grew up in Harlem. And honestly,
Oh, okay.
you know, being a Harlem girl, and just growing up here, I was afforded different communities, right? And so different villages. So my church was a village, my high school was a village. Um, local
Mhm.
1199, which is a local, it's a union. My
Mhm.
aunt used to work
Yep.
there, and some of those people became my adopted family at certain points. And so I just have found myself in different places where I've developed these villages who have helped to grow me up. And so I'm always thankful
Right.
and grateful for that. So Verkeya Speaks kind of like started because I had gone through so many tragic things in the last give or take 10, 11 years. And so
Okay.
I just wanted to share what I had experienced and hopefully give back to the community in the process, right? So that
Right.
was my original goal. And now Verkeya Speaks has evolved, it's taking some turns. Um, we are growing into a nonprofit, and so I'm
Very
really
good.
excited about that because I believe that, all things work together. So for the good
Absolutely.
of them who love
Absolutely.
the Lord and are called according to his purpose. And I know that
Absolutely.
this is my purpose, to give back to the Harlem community, to give back to New York City, the five boroughs specifically, and then also to give back to young women of color and women of
Right.
color in general. So Verkeya Speaks is striving to support women of color from zero to death and all the things that happen in between the lifespan. So it's a
Right.
rough
Right.
journey.
Right.
It's been
Awesome.
a difficult journey, but here we are now. I'm a published author. I published my first book last year in July, and
Awesome.
it's that. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you. So
congratulations.
Intertwined
Congratulations.
was a fictional book that I brought together about real life things. So, there are some love stories that
Right.
take place in the book, but there's some tragedy that happens as well, right? So, that's kind of where I have merged my work life, and my community life
Hmm.
with my writing. So, yeah.
Right. 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 So, I mean, that is awesome. That is like such a God's gift, and it just led you right into the direction that you need to be.
Yeah.
It's like miracles work so quickly, don't they?
I feel I have mixed feelings about miracles, and I say that because I am an impatient person, and
Right.
I'm one of those people who wants what they wanted and wants it now. And
Hmm.
God was like, no, wait. There was a lot
Yeah.
of junctures in my life where God was like, I don't think so,
Right.
not yet. And
It's my
so
time. My time.
right. And so, you think that you have it all under control. You know what you're doing. You're
Mhm.
making decisions for your life. And God is like, the joke's on you because I'm always in control. So
Right.
that's kind of how this has gone for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So tell me about your lupus journey. When were you
Ooh.
diagnosed?
I was diagnosed in 2011, and
Okay.
I remember it as clear as day. I used to work for a foster care agency,
Okay.
and I was at court, and
Mm.
I got a phone call from the doctor, and she's like, I was just calling you to let you know that you had a positive AMA, and that means you have lupus, so we want you to come in and talk to you. And I'm like,
Okay.
okay. Like, I kind of just shrugged it off, I think, in
Right.
that moment.
Right.
I knew all of these things were happening, and I was thankful to have an answer for it. And
Right.
so, the things that led to the diagnosis were the hard part, right? It wasn't
Right.
hearing that I had a diagnosis because I knew something was wrong, but nobody could tell me what it was.
Right.
Um, so it was like, it was May. It was this time of year actually when it happens. And it was just like, okay, so now what? Like, what does this
Right.
mean?
What do
So
I do?
yeah. Exactly. I was like, okay, so what do we do about it? And
Right.
that's kind
Now,
of where I was.
how what led you to go to the doctor and
Hmm.
think that, led the doctor to think that it was lupus? Did she just take the blood test, or did she, talk to you about your family history? What led to it all?
So I actually had gotten pregnant and had a
Ah,
miscarriage.
okay,
And
okay.
I had migraines for a really long time, but I hadn't gone to see the neurologist in a while. So
Hmm.
the migraines had started back, and I was just like, maybe I should go see my doctor and tell her about these migraines. And so when I saw her, she was just like, "So what's been going on?" And I was like, "Oh, just the migraines again." I
Right,
had a miscarriage, and I was just rambling off things, and she was like, "Wait a minute, what? You had a
right,
miscarriage?" And then she
right,
was like, first she said, "I'm so sorry for your loss." That was the first thing
right,
she said.
right.
Then she
Absolutely.
said, I had another patient who has similar
Hmm.
symptoms as you, and she
Hmm.
just recently had a miscarriage.
Wow.
Do you know what lupus is? And I was like, no,
No. Right.
like, I
Exactly.
don't have no idea. And so she was like, well, I want you to go to the lab. Do you have time? And I said, absolutely. So
Absolutely.
she
Yeah.
said, go to the lab. She sent me downstairs. I got my blood drawn. And then that's how everything kind of unfolded from there.
Yeah.
But I still didn't feel like I understood
What
exactly
it
what was
was.
happening,
Hmm. Right.
you
Right.
know. And then I
You just knew
started,
she was telling you what it was. Yeah.
right. And then I started working with a rheumatologist, and I've been working with the same rheumatologist since 2011. So, it's nice when you've been working with the same person for a long period of time because they kind
Hmm.
of like they know a lot about you after a while.
Right.
And so they know when things are serious and when you're just talking junk.
Right.
But
Right. When you're faking it. Yeah.
right. And I don't, not that I ever fake it, but
Hmm.
like she knows if I'm contacting her, there's a seriousness to it. Because I'll be honest, I'm not that person who's in and out of the ER. I only go if it's really, really serious or I feel like I just can't take the pain anymore. So if I'm in the ER, like my doctor's like, okay. Or if I'm cycling a lot and I'm having like flare up after flare up
Right.
and we're not getting it under control, then she's like, okay, I need you to come in. We got to figure out what's going on. And I've gone through like
Right.
the gamut of medication at this point. So
Right. Right.
yeah,
Now, what type of lupus do you actually have?
I have SLE.
Okay. Okay.
And don't ask
Okay.
me how to pronounce any of what that actually the abbreviation stands for because
I
I
know.
will mess it up every time.
I'll
Every
pronounce it for you.
single time.
Systemic lupus erythematosus. Yes.
Yeah,
which is
what
what
you said.
which is the most common form of lupus. But sometimes,
Exactly.
it's so hard to for doctors to pinpoint exactly what's going on. And because of the different biases in healthcare, it can be
Absolutely.
difficult. So it didn't take you long to get diagnosed though after you spoke to a rheumatologist though. Am I correct?
It didn't. So I was my neurologist is the one who figured it out. And I had been seeing her
I
though
see that.
for over a year and a half. It had been a long time since I was
Wow.
seeing the
Okay.
neurologist. So like I had
Because of the
started
migraines
the
and everything.
the migraines. I was having balance issues. And so like
Wow.
I
Okay.
would stand up and fall over. It was just weird.
Wow.
Um there were so many like random things happening, and actually I got married in 2010, and 6 months after we got married I was in so much pain
Mm.
and they didn't know what was causing it. So I actually was in the hospital that Christmas, and they actually ended up doing a spinal tap trying to figure out what was going on.
Wow.
They was like, does she have Lyme disease? What's
Right.
happening? So it took about a year and a half to really pinpoint what was happening. However, a good friend of mine and I had been talking one day, and she was like, you know what, Kia, I think you've always had lupus. We just didn't know.
Hindsight
And
2020,
I was
right?
like, yes. And I was like, huh? And she was like, think about all of the things that have happened like over your lifespan, like your issues with your knees and your bone and your joints and stuff like that.
Right.
Like, it's so interesting how you don't think about that stuff until you're having a conversation with somebody about it.
Right. Right.
I think the hormonal changes
From being
have
pregnant,
a
right?
huge impact on my lupus. So that was that. I think that's why things kind of got revved up after that first miscarriage, because of course your hormones are all over the place, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so that kind of is what my lupus journey began. That's where
Right.
everything began. Yeah.
And as you were going through that journey, trying to find out everything, what was going through your head? I mean, I know when I was diagnosed, I was just like, look, I don't care what the heck it is. As long as you could just stop this pain, I'm good. you
Yeah.
know, what
And
was
that's
going through your head?
that was basically it. Like, I can't take this anymore. Nobody
Right.
knows what's wrong with me. It makes you feel a little crazy. And then it makes you feel a lot depressed. And then it gives you anxiety because you never know which way things are going to go, right? Like,
Right.
there's always the feeling of, okay, what happens today? And I still sometimes have those feelings like,
Right.
all right, what's going to happen today?
Right. Right. What you got
Is
for me today, Lupus?
right. Like, am I going to walk too much and my legs going to completely give out? Am I going to be in the house with my kid and he finds me and I'm not breathing? Like,
Yeah.
we've had to go through safety measures because generally speaking, it's just the two of us in the house. So
Right.
I've had to explain to him, like, if mommy is not breathing, you call daddy first,
Right.
and then he'll help you call 911. He knows he could
Right.
call 911 straight off, but I always want him to call his father so another adult, knows what's going
Absolutely.
on as well.
Absolutely.
Um, but it's you never know which way things are gonna go. You never know. So
Yeah, and it's
that's the
hard,
hard
and
part.
it's hard to live that way.
Yeah,
It's hard. It's I don't want to say it's a fear, but in some ways and instances, it is a fear. That something might happen. So you have to
I think
definitely keep
good.
uplifted. So you definitely have to keep
Yes,
uplifted.
yes, absolutely. And I think for me, initially, I think I was in denial.
Right.
Just like whatever. It probably wasn't until I saw one of my good friends, like she was really, really sick.
Mm,
And I was just like, whoa, that's what could happen? Oh damn.
wow.
Like I think I might want to pay attention a little bit more.
Let me get my mind together.
Exactly. And I think that was my wake up call because I think God was trying to prepare me for what was about to happen next. Right? Like
Right. Right.
I didn't know what was coming, but God was like, you need to pay attention because it's about to get extra serious.
Right.
And so I was just like, here we go. And shortly thereafter, I actually started doing fertility treatments.
Really.
Yeah, because I was having difficulty getting pregnant.
Mm,
And I had 3 rounds of IUI, which is intrauterine insemination. This was after I had to have a myomectomy, which is the
mm,
removal of fibroids. So I did that. And then I did 3 rounds of IUI, which is intrauterine insemination. And the third round, I got pregnant again. So,
wow.
of
Okay.
course, we were super excited, only to be
Mm-hmm.
told, don't get excited because it wasn't forming properly. So, I
Wow.
ended up having miscarriage number 2.
Wow. I'm so sorry. Good grief. Good
Yeah, and
grief.
exactly. And that's how it was just like, you can't be serious. How much of this
Yeah.
am I going to go through? But like I said,
Right.
God was like, you need to pay attention because it's about to get real. So
Right.
we
Right.
did our first round of IVF afterwards because I was like, I'm not doing any more IUI. I can't deal. So we
Right.
we went and did IVF, and I got pregnant. Um, the doctor put 2 eggs back. We thought we were gonna have twins. At least we hoped for it. We were hoping that they wouldn't split both, and then we'd have 4 babies.
Right.
Because who got money for that? That's expensive.
Right. Be careful what you
So
ask for, right?
exactly. So I was like, a set of twins would be great. We could close up shop. We'd be done.
Right.
Well, 1 egg didn't survive. The other one did, and we went through 27 weeks of pregnancy.
Wow.
No indication that anything was wrong. I also
Right.
have the trait for Sjogren's syndrome.
Yes. Children's. Yeah.
So yeah, so any baby that I carry has the potential to have heart block. And with lupus, there's always a risk of preeclampsia or
Right.
basically fetal, demise, internal fetal demise, right? So
Right.
like, and 27 weeks, and I had a stillborn.
Oh.
And so it was like, what part of the game is this? Because I'm about tired of all these extras. And the during that pregnancy with my first son, we actually that was the first time I actually started medication. So I had started Plaquenil at that time
Mm-hmm.
and a small dose of prednisone.
Right.
And so it was like, okay, we'll work it out, then see how this goes. But after I lost him, I ended up having preeclampsia, which was crazy because I didn't know anything. I shouldn't say that. That the night before I felt a little sick, but I just thought I was really tired because I was working a 3 to 11 shift at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I came home. My husband was like, "What's the matter?" I'm like, I just don't feel so great. So he was like, "Oh, lay down." The next morning, I had a migraine. So I called my mother, who's also a nurse. She was like,
Right.
"Call the doctor's office." I called the doctor's office, and the nurse was like, "Listen, drink some caffeine. Give us a
Mm.
call back if anything changes." And I just laid in bed all day until the evening, and then I finally was like, "Let me get up,
Mm-hmm.
move around."
Right.
And we didn't feel any movement, and I'm like shaking my belly, and my husband's like, "Listen, why are you shaking him like that?" I'm like, "That's how they tell you to test for movement." So he was
Right.
like, "Okay." I took a shower, I got back in the bed, and then I started having sharp pains in my lower back. So I was
Right.
like, then I started feeling nauseous. I'm like, okay, I think I'm in labor. But I just thought it was early pregnancy. He was going to end up in a NICU. But that was not the
Right.
case. We went to the hospital. By the time I got there, I was in severe pain, and he was gone already. And so it was a rough road. And so of course, after that, like I said earlier, my hormones were like obviously all over the place, and then that
Right.
causes your emotions to be all over the place. And
Yeah.
it's kind of funny that lupus and mental health awareness month are the same month because it's so indicative of my lupus journey, and dealing with maternal mental health.
Right.
And if I didn't say it before, I'll say it now. I'm a social worker by trade. So
Right.
like, I was just like, after that, I knew I needed to get some therapy because I was not
Mm.
doing okay. And then because of the preeclampsia and everything that was going on, of course, they put me on a whole bunch of steroids. So
Right.
now I'm like, my medication has shot up. And after that, I will say, like, lupus really became a thing. Like, it was just like, okay, well, is this what this is about? Well, I think I have it. I think I know now. And
Right.
so, it was the up and down on steroids, trying to try different medications, especially after my second son, Caden, was born. I've run the gamut of medications,
Yeah.
like to the point where now my doctor's like, I don't know what else we're going to use with you because
Wow. Wow.
we've kind of used them all. For a
Yeah.
long time, I was on prednisone, but then the prednisone wasn't working, so they switched me to Medrol. And then I was on steroids so long that I ended up with diabetes.
Of
And
course.
so so now that I'm not on steroids, the diabetes is like a non-conversation, thankfully. But
Right.
it's been a roller coaster ride.
I see. I see. I mean, you are one strong woman,
Thank
and
you.
I mean, God has given you the strength to really carry on after all of that loss and, everything that's going on in your body. It's just a miracle that you're here today to be able to speak about it. And, somebody might be going through the same thing that you've gone through.
Yeah.
And to be able to give someone hope like you're doing, it's amazing to me. It's amazing to me.
I'm just thankful that I am bold enough to be open,
Absolutely.
because there
Absolutely.
are a lot of people who have amazing stories, but everybody is not comfortable to share.
Right.
And so I think God was like, you've always been a talker. You've always been the one speaking up about different things. Use
Hmm.
that, and here's the story that I'm giving you. No, it's not all a bed of roses, but there's so many things that so many people can pull from for various reasons, and I really like mental maternal health is super important to me, like I said, because I did go through postpartum depression and I
Hmm.
experienced disenfranchised grief because being a
Wow.
mother, losing a baby, people were like, what you upset for? You didn't even
Right.
know it. Like, and I'm like, but how dare you?
Really?
I
Right.
was bonded with that baby for weeks, for 27 whole weeks. And I was that baby's mother and
Right.
he was my child and we had a relationship. It may not be the typical parent relationship with a child
Right.
because he didn't I didn't spend time with him outside the womb, but it
But
was a
the
connection nonetheless.
audacity, yeah, the audacity for someone,
People have
to even
said
say that to you. I mean, what
you'd be
what kind of
surprised the
stupid
things
statement
that
is
people
that?
say.
Yeah, it's like, come
You
on,
would be
people.
surprised the things that people say, not knowing your whole story. Like I've
Right.
had people say to me, like when I first lost Caleb, people were like, "You could just get pregnant again."
Oh, really? It's just that easy, huh?
Do you
Yeah,
even
people are
understand
right.
what I've gone
Right.
through? You have no
Right.
idea.
Right.
You don't know the medications, the shots, the this, the that,
Right.
trying to conceive. So don't always
You
assume that
right.
everybody is having sex and getting pregnant because everybody
Right.
doesn't have that same story.
Right, right. And it's just so ignorant to ask say a statement like that. It's like you really need to think before you speak. You have to really be conscious, like you said. You don't know my story. You know what I'm saying? You
Absolutely.
have you have been the epitome of strength through it all, and I'm sure that you've had some weak moments,
Oh,
and that's
yes.
for you and for you alone, you and God or whatever have you. But for the audacity, whew, have the audacity
Oh,
of
my
hope, not
gosh.
the audacity to test it. Come on now.
But I think that sometimes, people mean well, but they
Mm,
don't even like. My thing is, I've learned to not comment on stuff because you don't know the whole story.
right.
Right? So like,
Yeah.
I've had strangers see me with my son Caden and be like, "Oh, he's the only child. You're so young. That's really selfish. You need to have another one."
Wow.
Excuse you? Are you
Right.
paying my bills? Can I
Right. Right.
afford to have another one? Am I in a relationship that you know about? Like, what's happening here?
Right. Right. Right.
And
It's
then
like
they don't understand that technically he's my second child already. And
right.
who said for me to go through another pregnancy might be a danger to that baby and me? And
Right.
so that leaves the child that I have by himself
Right.
or with,
Right.
I'm telling you, people have no idea what to say sometimes.
Yeah. And it's just like our parents used to tell us, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything. Don't say
Right,
anything. Just keep
right.
it to yourself and don't
Well,
don't don't talk about it.
if you're talking to a stranger, mind your business.
Exactly.
Mind your business.
Exactly. Exactly. And I don't think people get it. And and with you going through everything that you've gone through, with maternal issues and things of that nature, and then having lupus put on top of that. So now people are not only judging your maternal issues, now they're judging you based on your health issues. So
Right.
it becomes a
Which
it
they
becomes a
don't know about.
strain.
Hmm.
Right.
Which
Right. They
they
try
don't,
to
and
give
that
you the advice and all that.
absolutely. And I think that's the hardest part about lupus, and like the slogan for this year, make lupus visible, because you can't see what I'm dealing with on the outside. So like if I get on the train or I get on the bus and it's super crowded, but I'm having a really bad day where I probably should be sitting as
Right.
opposed to standing, nobody's going to give me a seat. Pregnant and everything. Nobody's
Right.
giving me a
Right.
seat.
Right.
So
Exactly.
it's like people have not really understood the magnitude of what
Hmm.
it means to have a disease that's so not visible on the
Right.
outside. So, like, you
Right.
know, and I'm, like I said before, I'm not the one to go around saying how much pain I'm in. Usually, when I go to the hospital and they ask on a scale of 1 to 10, I usually give it at least two less than what I'm actually feeling.
Absolutely.
So, there have been very few times where I'm like 10, 11, like, stop
Right.
playing. It's that serious today.
1,000. Come on, lady. Don't ask me those stupid questions.
Right. Like, there was one time where the doctor examined me and it hurt for them to touch me.
Hmm.
And they were
Yeah.
like, I'm so sorry. I was literally like, and it wasn't like a sobbing crying. The tears were just coming because it hurt
Right.
so bad. And I remember my husband was standing there and he was just like, oh my gosh, you're really in pain. And I think for him, sometimes, you know, throughout our relationship, it was hard for him to see the transition from
Right.
healthy person to now somebody dealing with chronic pain. And, and then also my son, like, my son is pretty rough. He's 6 now, but he's a rough kid. He likes to
He's a boy.
roughhouse,
Hmm.
right? And it's like, okay, you can't be that rough, Kaden. He wants to lay all over me, and I'm like, kid,
Yeah.
that hurts. Like it's hard to tell him, okay, you can't lay on me today, or he would want to come get in the bed with me, and my kid is a wild sleeper. And
Right.
I'll be
Right.
like, boy, if you don't get your feet out my
My
ribs,
face.
my back, my neck,
I know that's right. I
everything.
know that's
So,
right.
that has been difficult, or trying to get people who you're friends with to understand that, no, I can't go out today. I'm sorry, it's the last minute and I'm canceling, but I can't do it. It's
Yeah.
just, I
I just
just
yeah.
can't.
Yeah. And that's important. A lot of things that you're saying is so important. The having the will to say no, and
Mm.
not pushing yourself to a point where you're not able to even walk the next day. It's real
Oh,
important to get to that point when you have lupus.
yes. Yes. And there have been moments where I'm like, where's the cane? Where did I leave it? Okay, I have
Right.
to put the shower seat in the shower because I can't stand up.
Hmm.
Um, I also had issues with my parathyroid, so I had to have it removed. So like I was having calcium issues and stuff. So they're like watching me for osteoporosis.
Right.
Um, and so I I broke my foot twice, the same foot twice, in like a
Wow.
span of 2 years, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that the first time was the worst because then I had to have a cast in
Mm.
summer. It was so
Oh.
hot.
Oh.
It was the worst. Like I
God.
broke my foot on Father's Day. I got the cast off the day before my birthday that year or the day of my birthday. And
Wow.
it was rough. I kind of had to like figure out how to walk with a boot, which was so uncomfortable. And then because you have joint issues, excuse me, wearing the boot makes things worse because then you're walking uneven. And I
Right.
had the boot
Right.
on for so long. When I took it off, like the
Yeah.
struggles, the
Yeah.
struggles all
And I think
summer long.
and it
Okay.
And
in the
it
heat.
is so good that you can laugh at it now because, you overcame it, you know.
Yeah, yeah. But it definitely took the village to get me
Absolutely.
through those moments, because when those
Absolutely.
moments get really, really hard, it's like, how do I get through this without losing my mind? Right.
Right.
But
Right.
you have to look to your support. You have to do the things that make you feel good. I try to spend time with my son. I write. Those are the things that help me get through those rough moments, because it's just like when the pain hits and it's like, okay, I have waited. So there was one year I was so sick. I had the flu,
Mm,
I had a lupus flare up, and
of course.
a and a bacterial infection in my stomach,
Oh,
all
wow.
at the same time. I had gone about 2.5 weeks or so before I went to the hospital.
Wow.
And I was vomiting. I had diarrhea. I couldn't eat because I
Hmm.
literally couldn't drink water. Every time I drank, ate anything, I was in the bathroom. I worked through that whole entire time. I never took a day off. And then one morning, I literally woke up out of my sleep dry heaving. And I
Wow.
called my mom, and she was like, "That's enough. Go to the hospital."
Yeah.
And they were like, why did you wait so long to go? And I was like,
Right.
I was fine.
Right.
Right. Like, but these are the things you tell yourself when
Right.
you're constantly dealing. Like, I deal
Yeah,
with
but
pain every day,
right.
So it's like,
And
yeah,
it's like, this is normal for you. It's unfortunate, but
right.
some of the things that you might have been going through was normal for
Yeah,
you, you know.
exactly.
It's like a
Exactly.
lot of doctors will say, "Oh, I can't stand your pain threshold," but I've had to adapt. When I didn't know what was going on, then I
Right.
had to adapt to live with it going on,
Which is a
you know.
whole different ball game that people don't quite understand. They're
Right.
like, well, if you in pain, what are you doing at work? Who gonna
Well,
pay my bills?
who gonna pay my right? Exactly.
I gotta
Exactly.
eat.
Exactly.
And not to say,
Exactly.
one thing that I have learned is if I need a day off, take it.
Hmm. Right.
I've had to learn that though, because that's not who I am.
Right.
I have a strong work ethic. But sometimes it's okay to say not today. Just like I had to learn how to say not today with my friends, I've had to
Hmm.
learn how to say not today with work. I've had to learn how to ask for help, which is extremely difficult for me. But even in the asking for help, like, listen, folks, if somebody is asking you for help, help them, because 9 times out of 10 it's hurting them to even ask you for help.
Exactly.
So show up,
Exactly.
do whatever it is that you can, and throughout, the pandemic, it's been hard, right? Because it's like, how do I maintain a level of norm
Right.
without living completely in fear, and like,
Exactly.
or
Exactly.
allowing the extra layer of fear to now drive
So,
me into a whole other thing, so it's
so you,
always some challenge.
yes, I know that's right. And so you literally had to change your mindset.
Yeah, yeah. Like,
You
when people are like, "Oh my God, we have to do this, we have to do that," and I'm like, "So, Verkeya, this is what you normally do. You normally are hugging and kissing folks because everybody got germs and you don't want their germs." Like, I'm the person, love my church family, they know that, but I'm the person where we all getting up, hugging and kissing and shaking, and I go to the bathroom
right.
because get
Right.
off me.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
other thing is that people who I'm close to or who know have become protective, right? So like, if they see me and I go to hug because it's somebody I'm super close to, and they go, "No, I have a cold, back up." you
Right.
know, so they've kind of learned how to be protective as well. So,
Right.
you know, but I had to kind of be like, okay, this is what we normally do. Yes, I have to be more conscious because I have the my son, and dealing with a little person, you know, you got to teach them. But his school was on it the week before everything shut down. His school was already like, okay, wash your hands. Here's the hand sanitizer, you know, and that was helpful.
Right.
And then his dad and I were like, listen, you come in the house, you wash your hands, you know, use just we carry sanitizer. He has bad allergies anyway. So last year we had to
Right.
make sure we had the tissue. And like I walk with as a mom, you're walking with some of that stuff anyway.
Right.
So,
Right.
you know, it was, I had to kind of like not be in panic mode. The only time I will say I was super panicked was when it came to
Hmm.
travel.
Ah, yes. Yes.
And I was just
Stressful.
like, oh my God. I was like, Lord, just just protect because
Yeah.
this is not, it was scary.
Right.
That was
Right.
extremely, extremely scary for me. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
can imagine. I can imagine the whole pandemic thing, and I'm trying to get a cord from my phone. I'm sorry.
It's
Um,
okay.
you know how life goes. The whole pandemic issue has. Let me just plug this in real quick before we get this connected. Has really made it difficult to not live in fear.
Hmm.
You know, and not to. But it also has taught us to take, not to take anything for granted.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, not to take
Absolutely.
anything for granted, and it really, I know it taught me to really look into myself,
Mm.
you know, and not allow it to just, just overcome you and make you feel like you can't do anything because you have an illness.
Yeah, I think I've learned so many different things through the pandemic, but definitely, you know, making choices like this is what I will deal with, this is what I won't deal with.
Right.
Um, this is what I would like to accomplish. This is what I I want for myself. I want for
Right.
my son.
Hmm.
Um, you know, trying to remember that he has to still live, and I can't allow what I'm experiencing and going through, you know, be pushed on him because honestly, he didn't go back to school this school year. But that was because it was just like we didn't trust it yet. You know, it was
Yeah.
like, I
Yeah.
don't know. And don't get me wrong, his school did a great job of keeping the kids safe, and I will say that, but I just didn't feel comfortable enough. So he
Right.
will go back in September,
Okay.
mostly because he needs a break from me.
I
I
know
need a
that's
break
right.
from him.
Right.
He needs more time with his peer group.
Hmm.
I think that he still thrived through this school year, but I think things could have been so much better had he been in school. Um,
Sure. Sure.
he actually said to me the other day, he was like, Mommy, if you used to be a teacher, why don't you teach anymore? You should be teaching. You're pretty good at this. And I
Hmm.
was like, and then
Boy.
he said, you shouldn't be working, but you're going to leave teaching and go work for that ACS thing. And I was just like, first of all, mind your business.
Right.
Second of all, I'm grown.
Right.
Mind your business.
I
But
love
he
it.
just was questioning my career choices. And I was just
Right.
like, I honestly just feel like teaching your own child is the most horrible thing
Oh yeah, I did it. So I
ever.
understand. I
Like,
understand.
no way should, I mean, and I think because, like I said, I got my undergrad degree in teaching. I'm just like, no, ma'am, not at
Right.
all. This is not working out. And I got out of the classroom because I just felt like I should be doing and helping in a different way. And
Right. I
so, you
understand
know, if I do go back to teaching, it won't be little kids. I think I think I work better with youth and young adults.
that.
So,
Right.
you know, if I went and taught some college classes or something of that nature, um, I would be okay with that. I would be open to that. So yeah,
Right.
but he has to go back to school.
Yeah. Yeah. I imagine that you both need a break. I imagine you both need a break. After a year and a half of all this stuff, everybody needs a break from
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah, yeah.
It's just like, just just give me 5 minutes. Just give me 5 minutes. Let me just
Actually, give
get
me
it together.
about 5 days on a beach,
Right. Yep.
no
Yep. With a drink in my hand.
communication
Yep. Yep.
whatsoever. Listen,
Absolutely.
and I love spending time with my son, and I've learned so much about him and myself as we've been home together. And we had our first experience where he had to go with me to the hospital a couple of
Hmm.
months ago,
Right. Yeah.
and that was scary. And so he did good. He did
Yeah.
good. He didn't freak out. He was
Yeah.
calm. But emergency room is no place for a 6-year-old.
Yeah,
Plain and
understandably
simple.
so. Understandably so. I mean, my son was 3 when I was diagnosed, so
Okay.
he had to grow up with it, and
Right.
learning how to take care of mom when dad wasn't available or until dad could come, and take care of me. So, they learn so quickly,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
sometimes it's so difficult for them, but in the long run, I'm gonna tell you, my son is now 23.
Okay.
In the long run, that child comes.
Mm-hmm. You're breaking up. I can't hear you. Okay. There it is. I
All
hear
right.
you now.
All right, let me get on this. Let me get on my computer. Give me 1 minute.
No problem.
There we go. And then let me do this. Add to stream. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Okay, awesome. Let me take these. Give me 1 minute. Let's see if that worked. Whew. Here we go. Am I
Awesome.
back?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, that's better. All righty. So we have some people that's on here real quick, and then I'm going to ask you another question. Um, I know Melody says that lupus is a devil's disease. It's showing enough act like the devil. I know that's right. I know that's right. But she says it's taken over her heart. And, we
Mm,
know that lupus can affect any um, part of your body,
yep.
from the root to the tooth. It can affect every part of your body. What type of encouragement can you give Melody? And I know she's,
Melody.
yeah,
Yeah.
just
I
comfortable
just
listen to her.
I would say this: find your tribe. Find a community of people that you can talk to on a regular basis. If you need one-on-one therapy, do that. I don't know if you believe in a higher power. Um, if you do, just pray. Listen, I will tell you that I have gone through this, and it's just like, when does it end? Game, right? And so, you try a new medication and you don't think it works. Just be patient with yourself and be kind to yourself. Taking care of yourself is the best thing that you can do. And I know you're like, well, I go to my doctor's appointments and all of those things. Yes, we have lots of appointments that we have to do, but that's not how we take care of ourselves. Like, we have to take care of our mind, our bodies, and our souls. Know, so you have to find the things that that speak to your soul, um and that will give you some strength to go on another couple of weeks, another couple of months, or another day, right?
Mhm.
Or another hour, because things change from hour to hour, from minute to minute. There are moments where I'm like, yeah, I could do this, and then I'm like, oh, maybe I should have sat down.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's the
You
truth.
know, but for me, it definitely has been knowing those folks I can go talk to.
Hmm.
And that's not everybody.
Say it
It's
again.
not. It's
Say it
not
again.
everybody. You can't go, like, talking to another person who has lupus is very different than talking to one of your girlfriends who doesn't, because they don't get it. You
Right.
know, they do not understand it completely. You know, if you have a caregiver, sometimes the caregivers, I have to clap it up for y'all because y'all have gone through so much. You were talking about your son
Hmm.
and like your son's father, and I'm just like, listen, those people watch us go through the cycles,
Right.
but they're there to talk to too. So, and sometimes they need their own people to go talk to, but just being kind to yourself, listen, it's not easy. It really isn't.
And that's an important point that you just made, to be kind to yourself. I think sometimes we get so wrapped up into not being able to do what we
Yep.
used to do that we become our own worst critic, you know?
Yep.
And it makes it hard to just deal with things day to day. It's
You
just
kind of have to reinvent yourself.
good point. Very good.
Like, before lupus, I was running half marathons, full marathons. Eh, I don't run for the bus now.
I know that's right.
I mean, if I had to really take off running, I would do it, but I just don't,
Yeah.
because it's not going to serve me in the end,
Right.
So it does make you, like, it changes your whole life. It
Yeah.
changes your whole life.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely does. Now, how do you feel that your support system has helped you the most? Like, what is the most important thing that your support system has done for you?
Helping me with my son, I would say, because I do work a 9 to 5, 35 hours a week.
Wow.
And, in those moments where I have to go to appointments or I have to go to the hospital, coming to get him, taking care of him, helping him out has been a godsend. And so I really appreciate that. Prior to me having my son, it varied. Some people were good to listen. Some people were there to be like, here's a hug. Some people were like, I don't get it. you know, when it comes to Verkeya Speaks, some people have jumped right in and are helping me through this process. And
Mhm.
so, it just varies. It depends on what it is, because everybody can't help with everything.
Right. Right.
And so, you have to find the person who's going to be good at this thing.
Right.
And so that's really how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good point. That's a good point because everybody can't help you, you know.
Nope.
And everybody's
Nope.
not really supposed to help. Everybody's in your life for a reason and for a season.
Yep.
So
And
you
and some people aren't equipped for the help that you need. Like, my mom's a nurse, but she's not, her specialty wasn't rheumatology.
right.
You know, her specialty is labor and delivery. So when it came to the baby stuff, she was pretty helpful. So it just depends on what is needed in the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have to be, I guess you would really have to be well versed in your own body and your own mind and your own spirit and soul to understand when it's time to use what someone gives you and when it's
Right.
time not to use it. You
Yeah.
know, that comes with changing your mindset as well, I imagine. Yeah.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
really kind of feel like, because of how lupus changes things, you kind of have to go with it. And
Right.
that gets to be a challenge. So then it kind of dictates, okay, I gotta manage all of these other things at the same time. And that can get hard. But yeah, you really have to kind of like, okay, I can do this with this person, but I can't do that with that person. That's not gonna work out this week. Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's a challenge. It's very challenging.
Yeah. When you find yourself I mean, you have been in some serious situations, and I honestly, I applaud you, and I'm so proud of you. I don't know you well,
Right.
but I feel like I've known you because your story is a story that has been a lot of people's story that
Right.
may have not been shared. But
Yeah.
I applaud you for your courage and your bravery and just being bold, like you stated, to tell your story so you can help somebody else.
Yeah.
When you're in those places, what is the fight song that really gets you moving? I don't know what it is.
I
It could
think
be
it
anything.
depends. It depends on how I don't like. Sometimes I have go to gospel songs,
Right.
and there's there's a song. It's called "Peace" by Hillsong Young and Free.
Oh,
Um, and I love that song because it just talks about peace for a restless soul, and when you have like those nights when you're up and you can't sleep, it's like you need peace in your soul. It's like, God, give me some peace to get through the next thing. And so what I also want to say is like, just like we have all these other things that we have to do and all these other things that are happening, lupus is like the icing on the cake, right? Just
right.
like before the pandemic, we had all these other things going on. The pandemic was just like another layer to what was happening. And it's like, you need to find your center. There are a lot of gospel songs that I really love. There's another song, "Lover of My Soul" by Jonathan. Gosh, I can't remember his last name right now, but I love it. And I have a lot of those songs. I just realized the other day that I am singing more hymns than I've ever sung before.
Wow. Wow.
I'm
They will
like,
carry you through.
I'm like, okay, grandma. Like, my grandma is all in my spirit. Like, sing
Right,
you a
right.
hymn, girl. But those are the things you learn when you're young. But those are also the things that when you grow up and you're like, oh, that's what them old people was singing about. Now I get
While
it,
she was
right?
rocking and singing.
Now I get it. I love Christmas. So there are a plethora of Christmas songs that I sing all the time. My son had us singing "Oh Holy Night" yesterday. And it was just like, but it was uplifting because when I talk about Christmas or when I sing a Christmas song, I get that warm and fuzzy feeling.
Right.
And so I love that. But I am a product of New York City and I love hip hop.
There you go.
And so DMX just passed away, and
Right.
DMX was like, he was my get hype music. Like, I love DMX. I grew up with him. And so there's of course a bunch of songs that I have to put my earbuds in to listen to, Biggie.
Right.
I
Right.
can't listen to that with my son around. So if I have some time where he's doing his activity or he's with his dad, then I can go and say, okay, I can listen to my Biggie, I can listen to some of my rap songs. But I definitely would say that gospel music is my go-to. And there are so many songs that I
Right.
truly honestly love. But I would say, "Lover of My Soul" and "Peace" are like top two right now because it just, you have to find that peace. It's so many things happening every day, all day, and you just have to find the peace within. And so that's where I am right now.
I love it. I love it. I think that I ask that question to everybody that I speak to, because I think it shows who you are. It shows how you overcome, how you get over.
Yeah.
The old song,
Yeah.
"How I Got Over." You
Oh,
know,
yes.
It just helps you to understand the person and to see, okay, I see where she's coming from. I know she's had a hard life, and I know things haven't gone, perfectly, but she knows where to go just to get that strength to move on.
It's so funny because when you said that, the first song that popped into my head was the song that I decided to play when I found out I was pregnant with my son Caden, which
Mhm.
was Roar.
Really?
And yes, and I was just like, I haven't listened to that song in a long time, but when I hear it, it just brings me back to that moment
Right.
when I found out I was pregnant, and I was just like, through that second cycle of IVF, we didn't tell anybody that we were doing it. So
Right.
it was just like I put those headphones in and I went for a walk, and I
Mhm.
was just singing and crying because I was so excited.
Right.
But you gotta find, I mean, music speaks to everybody,
Right. And
different music.
yeah, and it can be an outlet. It can
Yes.
definitely be an outlet. It's just like you said, you put in your headphones, you just walked, and you were able to release, and you were able to feel that joy at that time.
Yep.
As I'm sure you feel when, even when you hear it on a normal day now, it brings back
It
all
just
those
because
feelings.
it brings you back to that moment where you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, I remember that feeling, and you can kind of like teleport almost back to it and like really
Right.
feel it.
Right.
Yep.
And sometimes that's important in our lupus walk, for us to find those places where we can find that peace within, where we can be still and just be. It's,
Absolutely.
it's it's so important. Even though, sometimes you'll be sitting in your car and you just bust out crying. People are like, oh my gosh, what is wrong with you? Why are you crying? What's wrong with you? That song, it hit me. It just had to come out.
Yep.
And that's an important point for lupus warriors as well. You have to release those feelings. You should be angry that you have lupus. You should
Yeah,
be sad that you have lupus. Those are legit feelings, and they have to be released in order for you to heal.
absolutely. Absolutely.
What is the quote that keeps you fighting? What is the Bible verse that keeps you moving?
Because that's what it is.
It might be
um,
a psalm, it might be anything, but what is that
actually,
quote or that
it's
Bible verse that gets you?
be anxious for nothing, but in everything in prayer and supplication, make your requests known to God, and may the God of peace, who passes all understanding, guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus.
That's
And
amazing.
I that verse kind of became a go-to for me for so many different reasons, because the anxiety of having chronic illness and being pregnant was so high. The
Mhm.
anxiety of like, am I ever going to have a baby was so high.
Right.
But I'm like, God knows my heart. He knows my mind. Guard my heart
Mm.
and be with me as I take this journey. Calm my fears, right?
Mhm.
And I know that he's with me always. So I had to kind of remind myself of that.
Mhm.
Um, and I just take that scripture everywhere I go with me. I have others, but that one,
Absolutely.
like, if you check my
Yeah.
stories every so often, you'll see it circulating. Um, and it's like you have to find those things to kind of help get you through. I remember when I learned the Serenity Prayer. I was in high school,
Mhm.
and my teacher had it on her desk. And I
Mhm.
was like, I had no idea where it came from, what it was really all about, of course,
Right.
until I was older. But it's something that I often just say to myself, because we do have to learn to accept things we can't change. We
That
can't
change.
change
Yep.
that we have lupus, right? But we can change how we deal with it. We can change how we react to certain things. And
Absolutely.
so, you know, there are some things, and it's so funny because when, like, right before I lost my son, my cousin also had a loss of her own.
Mhm.
And I remember saying to somebody, I don't know who it was, but I was like, I think if that happened to me, y'all gonna be scraping me up off the floor.
Mm.
And sure enough, 3 months later, it happened to me.
Wow.
There was
Wow.
nobody scraping me up off the floor.
Mhm. You
I was on the
for
floor at one
yourself.
point.
Yeah.
Right. I was on the floor at one point, but when I was on the floor, God said, "You need help, get help." And I reached out to a former professor of mine to ask him about who he could recommend for therapy. And I started my therapeutic journey. Um, and it was hard. It was really hard. We tackled some rough stuff, you know, that was about loss, about having chronic illness, and about 50 million other things, because all of that stuff comes up, right?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's just amazing. I'm so excited to be in touch with you. I mean, you're such a positive spirit. You have such a sweet soul.
Thank
Um,
you.
and like I said, I'm just so proud that you have had the courage and God has given you the strength to just continue to move on and continue to uplift others and tell your story and help others through things that many probably wouldn't even think about helping them through.
Absolutely.
No,
Absolutely.
it's awesome. I think it's awesome. I want to be respectful of your time.
Okay.
And we've been we've been talking for an hour, and I love it. I probably could talk to you all day. I'm originally from New York. I'm in VA now, so
Okay.
you always find that New York connection.
Uh-huh.
So,
Because
I
there's nothing like another New Yorker.
yeah, it's not. And my husband's from Harlem, so it's
Oh, okay.
really good. So, I think my last question would be what motivational advice would you give the lupus warrior that is just really having a tough time? I mean,
Mm.
those tough times where you'll feel hopeless and helpless. What is a couple of words that you can give them? It can be as long as you like. It's up to you. But
Oh,
what motivational advice would you give them, just based off your experience and based off who you are?
first
Um,
I would say let it out, right?
right,
Like let those tears out.
absolutely.
You lose so much when you become diagnosed, right? Like you lose who you used to be. I'm emotional about this because that was really hard for me. I being told you can't run anymore was
Right,
like it killed me. It killed me. It still kills me. I love running.
right,
um you know but mourn the loss. You have to mourn the loss, and then once you do that, find things that you can do that are going to take you into who you're becoming,
right,
right? um but be true to your feelings. Be honest about your feelings. Don't put on a face for somebody else.
hmm hmm
I've been pretty jovial throughout this conversation, but hearing that question just brought those emotions, because I'm like, I remember those low moments. I still have them. And what I've been doing in the morning, throughout the pandemic, I found myself very anxious. So
hmm
repeating the scripture that I said earlier.
hmm
Um, and then there's a song by Londrell. It's called Gratitude.
hmm
And I had to remind myself to be grateful. No, I'm not in perfect health, right? But I can get up, I can move, and you'll if you go on my page Verkeya Speaks, whether it's on Instagram or on Facebook, you may find some workout videos with my son and I, him being silly, me really trying to keep moving, because what I've learned is like, you know trying to find that healthy balance. And so, be grateful. That's like, and I know that sounds like, well, how do you be grateful when you feeling all miserable? Listen, there's something to be thankful for. Do you have somewhere to sleep? Do you
Right.
have food to eat? Do you have health insurance? Listen,
Yeah.
because folks like us know what it's like when we get that bill and we like, you want me to pay what?
Right. Right.
That's
Right.
not feasible. Who can afford that? Like, I remember when I started taking Benlysta, and then it was like, it's gonna cost you $100 per treatment or whatever, some astronomical number. And I
Yeah.
was like, I don't have that kind of money. What is this?
Right.
And thankfully insurance picked things up and it wasn't so bad. But, when you hear those things, it kind of just like takes you out. But you got to find that balance. You have to be grateful. And then find your tribe. Find that group of people who understands what you're going through.
Right.
Because talking to somebody who does not get it is futile.
Right.
It's futile. Completely futile.
Right.
Not only do I have friends and family who have lupus, but I also have some friends who have MS. And while they're different, they're similar. And so, like, my tribe is not just love you, go to sleep, sleep well. It's not just, people who are dealing with lupus, but other chronic illnesses as well. And so, that's important.
Yeah.
Find your people.
Yeah.
Find
Yeah.
your people.
And I'm gonna tell you that support is so important. That support and just finding the people that just mean you well.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
finding people that are in your corner and finding people that that you can count on if you just need somebody to lay on their shoulder and cry.
Absolutely. And hook up with an organization like Lupus Foundation of America is available. They have so many different resources. Lupus for Alliance research is also available. They have plenty of information and resources. There's so much information out there. There are support groups. There are conversations and talk, especially now because we're in pandemic still, and everything is happening online and via Zoom. If you can make midday things, and sometimes they post stuff to like the YouTube channel, and then you can watch it later if it's necessary. But there's so many things available. And I think the hard part is finding the information, right? Like, people don't know where to look, right? But just put lupus in a search engine and information will come up. I'm not saying read all the stuff that's there because that will drive you crazy. However, if you speak to a specific organization, they can find you and direct you to your local chapter and how to get, support or information that you may need. Maybe a new symptom has popped up and you're not sure what's happening. You need a new doctor if you move. Like, all of those things are important. I've never moved out of New York City except for to go away to college. So my doctors are here. I don't know if I ever will move out of New York City.
I used to say the same thing. I
don't know. It may happen, but I don't drive. So that's like a huge, thing, right? Because if you live out in New York City, you have to drive.
Right.
And if I'm not fortunate financially enough to call my driver when I need to go out, and consistently use Uber, I don't know about that, right? So, but yes, those are the most important things. Be grateful, find your tribe.
Right.
Those are definitely the things to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I have enjoyed speaking with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this.
I'm so happy that you agreed to come on and talk with us a little bit. I want you to give me your website so I can type it in the chat room so that when people see it.
Sure. It's verkeyaspeaks.com.
Verkeya Speaks. Let me make sure I'm typing stuff all right. .com, and I'm going to put that up so it can show.
And you can also find me on social media. If you're on Facebook, we have Verkeya Speaks. If you're on Instagram, Verkeya_speaks. And I do have a YouTube. I need to do better about putting things on the YouTube channel, but it is there. There are some really good videos that I've posted. I did some stuff on postpartum depression. I interviewed my son's father, who experienced all of this stuff with me. And so I interviewed him because I thought it was important to get that male perspective about, going through the process of, losing children and things of that nature. So there's some good videos on there. If you feel like you've enjoyed what we've discussed or see something else that you feel like is great, definitely share it. The more people know about it, I think the more helpful. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. So I'm not on Twitter. I am on Instagram. I'm not on Twitter.
I'm
Yeah.
doing wrong. Okay,
It's
Instagram.
okay. Yeah,
I
Instagram.
need to get your Twitter account now.
I know. I have feelings about Twitter.
Yeah, it's
Not
a little
sure how about that yet,
Instagram
but we
is
will get there.
Verkeya underscore speaks.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm gonna put that up there now.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
I'm sure we'll get pushed into having a Twitter account at some point.
I'm
Yes.
sure. I'm sure.
Yes.
And what is the name of your book? Give us a little synopsis of your book. The name of
Oh,
and then give us a
sure.
little synopsis.
It's called Intertwined. And so Intertwined is 4 different stories about 4 different New York couples that experience love and relationship. There are elements of intimate partner violence. There are elements of grief and loss. There are elements of child loss. Um, there are elements of happiness and sadness, and they're all different, realistic topics. There are discussion questions in the back of the book. So if you read it as a group, I think it's better. But definitely read Intertwined, because I am almost finished my second novel, Entangled, and I'm hoping to have Entangled out by Black Friday. And
Okay.
so yeah, and if you read Intertwined first, it'll help, because Entangled will have some characters that you've seen previously, and it'll make some references to the first book. But yeah.
Okay, awesome. And they can get that book on your website, correct?
You can, but I would say it would be easier at this time, because it's so many things going on. If you go to either Sisters Uptown Bookstore, which is a Black-owned bookstore in Harlem, they are carrying the book.
Okay.
And of course, Amazon.com is carrying the book. And if you put Intertwined, or just type in Verkeya Lanece, it'll pop up.
Okay.
I've also been a part of 2 other writing projects. So if you type in Verkeya Lanece, those projects will come up as well.
Okay. Now, does the Sisters Uptown Bookstore, do they deliver?
Yes,
Okay, awesome.
they can deliver. If you're a New Yorker, you are more than welcome to go in or order it and pick it up. But if you live out of state, you can order it, and they do deliver.
Okay, awesome. So if they went to that store to support Black businesses, they would be able to send it out. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, it has been a plum-pleasing pleasure.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. This was a nice way to spend a Thursday evening.
Yeah.
I am actually going to be talking to Karen Miller, who is another Lupus Warrior, next week on Facebook. So if you're on
Awesome.
Facebook, definitely catch it. I will be talking to a friend of mine, Tiffany Lewis English Lewis. I did that backwards. On Instagram tomorrow. She actually will be talking about being a mommy in waiting.
Oh, okay.
So,
Awesome.
yeah, because of course we just had Mother's Day.
Right.
It's a tough time. So I wanted to really have that conversation, because everybody isn't happy on Mother's Day.
Awesome. Yeah. And it's unfortunate, but you're absolutely right. And
Right.
it's
People have lost children, and people have lost their mothers.
all right. All right.
So,
I understand wholeheartedly.
right.
So thank you everyone for tuning in. I know I was not able to stream live to Instagram today, but I'll definitely put it up there as well, Verkeya. And I just want you guys to make sure that you go to verkeyaspeaks.com and support Verkeya and all of her journeys, and really support her in her lupus journey and whatever else she does. I'm excited to go and order my book.
Yay! We always love that. Yeah, I'm just hoping that, Verkeya Speaks flourishes, so that we can really help women, in various stages of their life, and just be a positive influence in the New York City community, and hopefully expand outside of the community.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Verkeya.
You're welcome. Take good
Appreciate
care.
it.
It was lovely to meet you and speak with you this
Likewise.
evening.
Like, we will be in touch again because my
Absolutely.
mind just went all different places that we can take you. So
Absolutely.
if you're
Absolutely.
willing, and we're willing to put you out there as well, you know. So
No
thank you
problem.
everybody for tuning in. This is Lupus in Color, where we strive to educate, inspire, encourage, and empower Lupus Warriors supporters worldwide. And I appreciate you all coming on and supporting Verkeya. All
Have
right.
a good night. It's good to
All
see
right.
you
Have a
again.
good night. I'll see you
Take
again.
care. Absolutely. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you everybody for tuning in. And we will see you tomorrow, where we will have another Lupus Warrior on talking about a lupus story. So make sure you tune in. Remember, everyone who comes in the room and everyone who is actually a part of our lives is put into a hat or a ring for us to draw for a free Lupus Warrior bracelet. So I appreciate everyone who was able to tune in. And I hope that we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.